You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show brought to you by Bank of Africa. And Bank of Africa wants you to know that they've opened a new branch head office at the first floor, on the first floor of Block A and B of the new Octagon building, close to Mövenpick Hotel. The new ultra-modern head office branch complements the Bolga, Wa, Airport City, Opera Square, Teshi, Nongua, and Accra Central branches that were added to the bank's family in 2016. Visit any of their 26 branches across the country to experience their excellent customer service in a comfortable and serene ambiance. For further directions and enquiries, please contact Bank of Africa 0302 249660. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. Pro-Secure Tea is a specially formulated health drink that improves any problems at all that you have in urination. Frequent urination during the day and night, delayed urination, straining during urination, urgency to urinate, interruption of urine flow, dribbling of urine after urination. Pro-Secure from Medimosis Prostate Center is located at Adenta Barrier, Tema Ajay Kojo, or Ahinema Kokobing in Kumasi. You can call them 020-8140-668 or 0244-068-447. You can install solar power today from the world's leading brand, Victron Energy. They install both off-grid solar and hybrid solar systems for residential and commercial users. Reduce your electricity bills by up to 90%. That's what they do for you. They offer 5 years warranty on their products, except the batteries, which come with 1 year warranty. You can call them 054 112 3430 or 020 700 2645. You can find them at number 10 Abaka Road, Tesano, first floor, same building with Zuzu Restaurant. You can also visit them at tinosolutions.com. Now, let me share some of the messages that you have sent in, and then we will continue. Some of the messages that you have sent in, let me read them to you. And this one is coming from Nana Hesi Ojiri in Dansuman. He says, first of all, the NDC cannot play propaganda with budget. Ghanaians now own the budget. Secondly, my utmost excitement about this budget is about the fact that bank accounts of all government institutions will be transferred to the central bank for ease of management and monitoring. No more private bank bia asempa budget papabi. Okay. Abu Sisu says that any NDC person who didn't see any hope in the 2017 budget is either clueless or simply incompetent. My 2016 electoral choice is sensible and justified. Kweku Esiedu says Ghanaians' expectations from the 2017 budget were how government intends to roll out policies in the various sectors of the economy by looking at the measures in restoring fiscal discipline and good governance, transparency, and accountable use of public resources. Interestingly, the budget was able to restore hope to nursing trainees and teachers, kayaye, businessmen, and above all, the average Ghanaian. And in my candid opinion, I think it's a step in the right direction. Let's put aside propaganda and support the government. Musa Abatoa in Kumasi says that, does this budget reflect the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian? Has utility bills been reduced? How do you squeeze revenue generation and widen expenditure? Government expect 1.8 billion revenue from the divestiture. It obviously means they will sell a lot of state-owned enterprises, abolish import duties on medicine, while a zero-rated duty. Whom are they fooling? Okay, says this is Azar and 419 budget. Nyamiche Isaac says that, trust me, this 5 loaves of bread will be shared with integrity, honesty, and with human face. The NDC is afraid that they will not come back to government in the near future. Asempa budgets, NDC is dead. Nyamiche in Awoshi. Prince Hamidu says our Kayaye sisters are still in jubilant and thankful mood over the abolishment of Kayaye tax, levy tax, call it whatever. The unstrategic and incompetent NDC and their minority are on the defensive, indicating there was nothing like taxing of Kayaye. Meanwhile, the reality on the ground is that they were paying levies, which is a form of tax, which burdened them. Nana Tete says, I am moved this morning by your statement. Okay. Please forget about that. People saying something and something wept. Okay. I got a direct effect of the air conditioner. Husseini Safiano in Saviligu says, it's possible we can make it with even less than once we have the competent team in place. The budget as presented is realistic, timely, and doable. The economic management team thought through it before coming out with it. Asempa budget. Ghanaians should trust this government. It's a long one, so I'll end there. Okay, I've told you all messages about something we've ignored. Yeah, Oseye Sibe in Odododio says that this is the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic that a pragmatic steps had been taken in the budget to change the face of the country's economic trend from mere propaganda to a more realistic and practical approach in job creation and space for entrepreneurs to strive. Ghanaians, thank you very much. Nana Baumia, Asempa budget. Horatius Amankra says this budget is making the NDC feel that they are likely to stay in opposition for so long. AU Farouk in Tamale says, good morning to you and your panelists. The budget is indeed a 419 budget. Where in the Constitution do we have Kayaye tax? We hope to see the implementation of the budget, discriminatory budget. Sami Yale says, after NDC worsening our plight and oversaddled us, the state with millions of dollars debt, they still have the guts to talk. The budget clearly shows the government's commitment to make the economic environment of the country more serene to attract investors. This budget indeed is a budget of hope. Trust me, if the minority thinks this budget is deceptive and populist, I personally prefer a budget that gives false hope to a budget which gives heart attack and depression. Ghana will work again. If you are sending your messages double, sorry, I will not read that. Don Pino in Malam says that Ghana shall certainly work again. The budget was superb. No import duty for spare parts importers and abolishment of Kayaye tolls. Ghana is on the verge of monumental transformation under His Excellency Nana Addo. Okay, and sorry, no shout outs on Newsfile. Now, Sofiano, I've read your message. So, okay, I think I can stop here and then we can continue the discussion. Asumtam Rich Yunus says, Chinese General Sun Tzu, in his famous Art of War book, described all warfares as a product of deception. All warfares are won through deception. Nana and his team played the psychological war card on Ghanaians, especially the poor and vulnerable. And now all their tax reliefs are for the rich and powerful. I just pray it wouldn't take long before the trickling down effect takes place. Okay, I think I can stop here so we can continue here in the studio. Now let's go to the finance minister once again and hear him talk about taxes. He's done something that has taken social media by storm. On social media, it's been abolish that, abolish that, abolish that. So some have actually termed him the abolitioner general. Let's hear what he had to say about the taxes that are gone.
Government has decided as pledged, to review these taxes to provide relief for businesses. The following specific measures shall be implemented in the short to medium term. With this budget, abolish the 1% special import levy. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on financial services. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally. Initiate steps to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery, for production within the context of the ECOWAS Common External Tariff Protocol. We will abolish the 70.5% of domestic airline tickets. We will abolish the 5% VAT on real estate sales. We will abolish excise duty on petroleum. Mr. Speaker, we will reduce the special petroleum tax rate from 70.5% to 15%. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, to all of our friends in Abosokai, we would abolish duty on the importation of spare parts. We shall abolish levies imposed on Kaya by local authorities.
Okay, so that's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and I can start with you so that you could do the little reaction you wanted to start with first, and then we talk about the taxes. We're hearing people in government say a lot of things about the taxes, including that, for example, the import duty tax is not prudent, and that is going to lead to Ghana becoming a dumping ground for this second-hand stuff. The KIA thing, there's a question, nomenclature, about whether there's actually a tax. And I've heard Alfred van der Poy, the Accra mayor, former Accra mayor, and the MP for the area now, and also Setekpe, former finance minister, say that that is a discrimination that is in play, because that tax or that levy or toll was not limited to only KIAs. Pure water sellers also had it. So why is it that only KIAs are being relieved of it? And then you talk the other aspects of these taxes that you have issues with. Why should anybody have issues with tax, abolishments and reductions?
Well, thank you very much. I don't think we have issues with anybody abolishing taxes. I mean, if you are abolishing taxes, there has to be a policy objective. And so our concern is how to reconcile the policy objectives that you have together with the taxes. You can't read abolition of taxes in isolation.
Right.
It has to achieve an objective. And I have said that if our objective as a country is to grow Ghanaian businesses that are into manufacturing, then it will be counterproductive to open the floodgates for imports to come in. That is the first point. So we have issues, not because you are abolishing the tax, but we are looking at your stated objective in terms of wanting to give manufacturing businesses a lifeline, and at the same time, giving them the kind of competition that already they are struggling to battle with. But in any case, we all know that the import duty is not just 1%. There's still a 2% duty that is still outstanding, which has not been removed. And so let anybody feel that when you go, you are not going to pay any duty. You still pay some 2% of that. And we know why they have to go for the 1% and not the 2%, because the yield in terms of income, the other one gives you just about 100 million, while the other one gives about 560 million. So in actual fact, Ghanaians pay more with the 2%, and yet they didn't want to touch that. They had to touch the one with just about 100 million. That is the first point. There are some taxes that he mentioned that we don't know under which law he will be coming to repeal them, because some of them have been repealed already. If you take the levy that he mentioned on rural electrification, he knows that all of that was consolidated Is it electrification levy or something like that? Yes, it is already consolidated in
electrification scheme levy.
Yes,
it's a line.
Let me finish. It's consolidated in the energy sector levy.
No. Okay, you finish.
Let me finish. You see, when you start, it is already in the energy. I don't know under which law he'll be coming to repeal it. It is under the energy sector. It consolidated all the laws in that sector, including the street lighting levy. All of that have been consolidated in the energy sector levy as one. So, and you are not willing to come under the energy sector levy to touch it. You know, and so you have a challenge understanding why you will be quoting specific levies that really legally don't exist. And that is my challenge. The populism in all of this is the fact that I am from the north, you are from the north. I do believe that what we need for our brothers and sisters who come here is not a pull factor to bring them here. It's not an encouragement to be exempted from taxes when you come here. It is to keep them there. And if those people, some of them have found their way here, how do we retrain them and integrate them into society? I believe that
definitely be here, and I don't think that any suggestion that when they are here they should be taxed for the menial jobs that they do.
I haven't said that, but I'm saying that the bigger picture is not for them to continuously be in the market and not pay tolls. That is the bigger picture. And I would have preferred that emphasis. The emphasis that
they'll be excited with you this morning if they hear what
my aim is not for anybody to be excited with me. My aim is to make sure that my people stay where they come from and have opportunity to a decent life there. My aim is not for anybody to be, you see, sometimes we all don't, sometimes when we're kids, you want something your parents know is not good for you, but you feel angry that you have been denied.
What do you say when the NPP says that we're going to create factories in these districts, so these will attract some of them to stay
We have already discussed that. $100 million for a medium-sized company. I don't know how many you can construct.
Okay, let's keep to the taxes.
Yeah, no, it's very important because I don't know how many factories you can construct. I can see a signal, even the dams that they are talking about. So far, we don't even know how many dams they are going to construct for this year. Whether they are doing 2, they are doing 3. It is not about just mentioning them because you said them in the campaign. It is about demonstrating what you really want to do. If you just mention one village, one dam, and I don't even know how many dams you'll be constructing, for instance. But you just say it because you mention it. And if you look at your budgetary allocations, we don't know where in particular you're going to find that money or where you have allocated and dedicated the money to do it. So it is not just about this, and I mentioned that the PR aspect of this budget has been spectacular. And that is what it has achieved. It has achieved the working on the sentiments of the people and getting the people to believe in a euphoria.
Really?
I'm telling you. You see, the truth is this. The truth is this. The kind of growth that we are talking about, we don't know where it's going to come from.
I'm going to have to use the airlines internally, and I'm not going to. And the 17% has been taken off. That's not believing in a reform.
Now let me explain something.
That's real.
Let me explain something. When we reduce taxes on aviation fuel, how much did fares come down? That is a reality. Prices are rigid downwards in Ghana. No, let me make a point. No, let me finish. Prices are rigid downwards in Ghana. But I will tell you, if you ask anybody in the aviation industry, they will tell you that I prefer to have maximum utilization of my aircraft to having tax incentive. Why? I buy an aircraft, I use it for only 8 hours in a day, and for 12 hours or so it is packed, 16 hours it is packed, and I've paid for it. He will prefer to have airports all over the place that can allow him to work even into the night and work 24 hours. He will make more money. That is a major incentive to bring down rates further than a tax. So the reality is that's what I'm saying. If you want to see how you want to grow the aviation sector, aviation players will tell you that they will prefer to be able to use their aircraft 24 hours.
Well,
are you getting the point?
So you are with the minority in Parliament. The statement that was read by the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, yesterday to the media, on the issue of taxation, he said, "We acknowledge the effort by government to remove a number of taxes to create space for the private sector." That is good acknowledgement. Yeah, you seem to be speaking across purposes.
No.
These measures could, however, have the opposite effect on the economy. in view of the lack of corresponding revenue measures to compensate for the loss of revenue that will occur. Why are you bothered about that?
My issue here, I think when I started, if you listen to me carefully, I said we are not against elimination of taxes. So that cannot be cross-purpose. You have to quote me properly. I said we are not against it. Okay. But what we are looking at is the policy objective and whether they are realigned, they are properly aligned. I think that is the starting point.
Okay.
The other issue about revenue, we have said that as a result of the elimination of these taxes, government has made some of the outrageous projections in revenue, and we have discussed that here. You want to tax 60% of your gross, what do you call it, your nominal growth of 20 billion. That is way too much. Okay, you want to get 61% growth in your international trade taxes. Very, very difficult to achieve. So those are the suggestions. See, let anybody think that if I am in opposition and I advise government, because I have been there, that your projections that you are making, you probably have to look at them again. I think that is a fair comment. You have to sit back and reason and see whether what I'm saying makes sense. Don't just say that because I'm saying if you are taxing 60% of your nominal growth, and we know the marginal tax rate in Ghana, and we cannot expect that you can make any improvement that will bring you additional probably 50% marginal tax. So you have to look at that again, because the bottom line is that the money must come to deliver the budget. And we are asking you to be realistic in your projections. I don't think that is to suggest that we're against what we are doing. Okay, if you are eliminating a tax on import duty, and we're asking you that look at your policy objective of wanting to grow the manufacturing sector and see what impact what you are doing is going to have on manufacturing. It is a caution for you to sit back and say, if more imports are going to come in, and don't forget that you can't read the import levy abolition without reading the reduction of the trading VAT to 3%. The cumulative effect of the two is that trading goods are going to be cheaper. What is the incentive here? The incentive here is that demand for these goods are going to go up. We don't have the capacity internally to produce them. So automatically we will import. What is the implication of that on the city? The pressure on wanting to get more dollars to import these goods. What is that going to have on our reserves? The cover that we have for our city. So these are questions that you are throwing up, and you need to sit back and assure us that these policies are aligned. And to be clear with this policy, two policies are inconsistent.
Okay. Now let's hear.
That's all about it.
Now I should hear from you now, Dr. Sesibe. Yeah. What do you make of the tax abolitions and reductions? What do you make of that?
Well, you know, something we know that some few months ago, AGI and others, you know, have been on the neck of government to try to reduce taxes, the multiplicity of taxes that tend to stifle businesses and do not create a competitive environment and all that. And so because of that, government thought that, tax, as much as it's good, it generates revenue, it can also be counterproductive if it's so high. You look at the Laffer curve, if it reaches certain level, you know, it can really bring you negative returns. And particularly if the tax really is not buoyant, it's not really generating growth, you know, then maybe those taxes can be done away with, because if you do away with such taxes, it can't really give you that kind of space. Businesses will now be able to get more confident in the economy, you know, invest and then grow the economy. So based on that, I think the government thought that, well, it would be proper for us to do away with these taxes and rather create that kind of conducive environment for businesses to thrive. Because once businesses they're beginning to spring up and beginning to, you know, produce, whatever tax, even if it's small, you're definitely going to get more in terms of revenue from the business base expanding. And so that probably led to that. For some of the taxes, to be honest with you, I don't really agree. But generally, the taxes for financial services, which will then encourage financial inclusion, you know, I think it was a good thing to remove such a tax.
Okay, but I'll be interested in knowing which of the taxes you do not agree with.
Well, my own personal opinion now, I will not really have removed taxes on import, particularly on spare parts.
Why?
For simple reason, is that this budget is very heavy on industrialization, trying to encourage domestic and domestic production, small businesses to thrive, and reduce the pressure on importation, largely. Because if you look at how weakening our currency have become, much of it is due to the fact that we tend to import so much. And so policies should always be ensuring that you, as much as possible, guard against or protect your domestic industry to a large extent. Of course, if you are able to create that kind of an enabling environment for them to be competitive, they'll be able to compete, with whatever goods that come in. But until then, you really have to have some kind of protection for. It is good, but we have to make sure that we guard against any unintended consequences. Because as was said, the Honorable Adongo said, if you don't take care and people lunch on it because they say that these imported products are going to be cheaper, and so everybody, monies that are supposed to be spent within really begin to go out. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the currency, and that can really affect the city, and also it can also stifle your own industrialization process. What I would have really expected, if these spare parts really were more on intermediate spare parts other than on finished products, intermediate that would go directly into perhaps fixing tractors, so that we become a little more discriminatory to, if you are importing these and that spare parts, you are likely to get tax waivers, because these spare parts go directly into our industrialization policy, so that could help with agriculture. I want to finish on this.
This is populism.
So, it's not necessarily populism. It needs to be guarded. Of course, there are safeguard measures that can be invoked whenever you feel that there's insurge of imports that is not to be expected. Those are the unintended consequences. Right, and you can invoke with IAT, import adjustment tariffs to reduce those unexpected surge in import. So you need to make sure that you constantly monitor how this is leading to increase in imports, so that you can invoke some of these safeguard and trade defense measures. Right. The issue of the taxes leading to shortfall in revenue, well, it's legitimate, but it cannot be the whole truth. You're looking at the buoyancy of the tax system. What was the capacity of these taxes to generate enough revenue? We have had these taxes, yet constantly we've been recording underperforming in revenue. If you look at the two key areas where the 33% increase in revenue is going to come from, it is going to come from, one, income and property taxes, and then two, on the trade taxes. These are the two key areas. Now, on the trade taxes, I think what is really clear in the budget, and which I'm quite happy about, is the issue of reduction in exemptions. The exemption aspect. Now, that alone could save the nation's huge sums of money. A study was conducted by the World Bank recently, 2016, on tax expenditures in Ghana. And it actually estimated that tax expenditure, which is a component of the incentives and exemptions and allowances and waivers that are given to public officials and others that import and all that, constitute about 5.6% of GDP, the tax expenditure alone. And so if you can really put in policies and realign or restructure your exemptions regime, I'm sure you can make enough money to make up even more than what you are losing as a result of these taxes. So to counter this reduction is making sure that you put in place a very efficient tax collection system. You do away with exemptions, because many of the exemptions have outlived their usefulness. For example, bringing in computers, and you say that because computers are for educational purposes, so it should be tax-free. And people use that to do all kinds of businesses. I think if these things are going to stop, and we close the loopholes in the exit point, that is the ports. Recently with this single window project that was done, by this single act, we've been able to increase revenue from the port by 23%. Okay, so I'm sure all that fed into the projection of 60% in terms of trade balance. Okay. And then on the income and property tax, of course, we're going to have the CIT, that is the corporate income tax, go up because we're going to have new revenue from oil coming in, and a chunk of it comes from corporate taxes. And it was a good thing for me that the finance minister did not touch the corporate tax because that would have been disastrous in my view.
They said they will reduce it.
Well, I mean, you can always change your mind. Okay. Yeah, for me, corporate tax in Ghana is not that high compared to other comparator countries that we have. I mean, some countries are paying 35, some countries are paying 30, and for the reason that we're going to have a lot more freebies, people going to enjoy a lot more, social, benefits from the budget. It only goes to reason that the tax level stays at certain level, because in many countries where they have free education and others, their average tax rate is about 45%.
Okay, interesting. Now, Dr. Said, the minority, for example, say that for us, the most important test of the effectiveness of these measures will be determined by a significant reduction in electricity and fuel prices, as promised by President Akufo-Addo. A significant reduction in price of spare parts for drivers and vehicle owners, and subsequent reduction in transportation fares, and a general reduction in the cost of living for every Ghanaian.
Okay, for me, I usually don't want to go into the political aspects of all these things.
But these are politicians speaking to the figures, so...
generally speaking, on the taxes, history, the short history, shows that since somewhat 2013, 2014, you started increasing the taxes. Like Doc rightly said, you are not seeing the impact in the revenue growth. So basically, probably what the MPP is saying may be true. They are just mere nuisance. I don't want to go into details of which tax you should reduce or not, but generally, if you are at the wrong side of the Laffer curve and you keep on increasing taxes, you could be causing trouble for growth. And probably no wonder that because of tax increases, growth has been limited over the recent years. And we do have an example of the impact that reduction in taxes can do for the country. Starting from somewhere 2004 up to 2008, taxes kept on reducing. And as taxes were reducing, you saw GDP growth increasing. And more importantly, government revenue was also increasing at a very fast pace. So tax decreases probably is a good thing for a country like Ghana. But then, what I want to say is that at times some of these things are politically motivated.
Okay.
Specifically, if you go into details, my advice is just that the government has to take economic considerations, use economic considerations when they are doing this, rather than political. Some of the taxes have been influenced by political considerations. I advise the government, consider the economics. In fact, when you consider the economics, in the long run, you will benefit from it.
Okay. Let's go over the taxes again, and please boldly look at them and tell me which one of them you think is influenced by politics rather than the economic and business sense, because the government intends to focus on production rather than what we say Setekpe did, overtax the people, and he admitted that himself. 1% special import levy, 17.5% VAT NHIL on financial services. Of course, when this was coming, we were all up in arms. But we understand this was supposed to be a temporary tax, right? Is that not it? Yes. Then 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally. Initiate steps to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery for production within the context of ECOWAS Common External Tariff Protocol. 17.1% VAT on domestic airline tickets, 5% VAT on real estate sales, excise duty on petroleum, gone. Special petroleum tax rate, 17.5%, reduced to 15%. Duty on the importation of spare parts, gone. We understand it's 1%. There's a 2% hidden somewhere. Is that not it? Levies imposed on KIA by local authorities, gone. Here we understand that the local assemblies, this is one of their major sources of, IGF, so to speak. It's taxation. It says the gains from realization of securities listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange or publicly held securities approved by Securities and Exchange Commission, then reviewed. Reduce National Electrification Scheme levy from 5% to 3%. Reduce public lighting levy from 5% to 2%. Replace the 17.5 VAT rate with a flat rate of 3% for traders. And finally, implement tax credits and other incentives for businesses that hire young graduates. Which one of these could have been informed by the politics?
Whether it is informed by politics or not.
They're still running away from it.
What impact is it going to make? That is what is important. I heard Doc saying reducing tax on importation of spare parts. Does Ghana produce spare parts so much? Do we? Or we rely on imports?
We import.
If you rely on imports, what damage is it going to do with domestic industry? But something like, reducing taxes on domestic airline tickets, probably equity can come in here. Domestic airlines, who bought it? Is it not the rich? The poor.
The rich are also Ghanaian. The rich people are also Ghanaian.
Is it not the rich? So it is somewhat regressive. Equity is not being observed. But as to what it is informed, whether it is informed by politics or not, I'm just advising the government has to be careful in taking into consideration economics. Okay. I don't want to get into those kind of stuff.
Okay, now, what do you say when the minority says, look, all that you have done, yeah, you've tried, but the real thing was to have brought down what Nanado was saying during the campaign, that it's becoming more expensive to pay your bills than to rent. So that's what they're looking at. Things that will affect petroleum directly, will affect